I'm with the chairman of the Legal Aid Committee in the studio here. And Andrew, you come in to talk about the consultation that's going on at the moment here in the Isle of Man for changes to how legal aid is going to be handled. And I know this is also going on in the UK, but you are looking really for Manx solutions, are you, to this?
Absolutely. We're not necessarily following the UK model, and as people will know that there's been quite a bit of trouble in how they've done it over there, and we don't want to make the same mistakes. So we're looking for a very specific Manx solution to how we take forward legal aid. And
people say there's going to be less of it, because you always hear these headline stories of people who seem to have lots of money but they can get legal aid. Are you going to be doing that sort of thing, or was it what you're asking people about?
That's what we're asking people about. There won't necessarily be less of it, although we are conscious that it is quite an expensive service and we've got to make best use of public resources. So we'll be looking at other ways of funding it. But it isn't our remit to cut legal aid, it's our remit to make it as accessible as possible and as fair and efficient as possible, not necessarily as cheap as possible.
You've probably heard from the usual suspects on this,
yeah.
But you wanted to get to everyone to have an input.
Absolutely. We've had a good response from people who are involved in legal aid in its delivery and know about it. We particularly want to hear from people who've received it and found it to their advantage, or whether in fact it hasn't worked very well for them. So we want to hear from a wide range of people who are involved in all aspects of legal aid, either as a recipient or as a deliverer.
Now, the consultation's been open for some time, but how long to go now?
Just until the end of next week. So the 28th of November is the closing date. We've had a good response to date, but we want to encourage people to get their submissions in before the deadline.
Okay. I know there's a website. You've got this piece of paper ready for this one. Yes. What is the website?
The website is legalaidconsultations@gov.im.
You did know it. Yes. It's quite complicated, but we'll put that on the screen as well.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And really, that's it. Just make your voice heard, and you'll be in touch with you.
Yes, what we want to do is for people to tell us whether they think the existing system works for them, whether they think it's fair, whether they think it's accessible, it's efficient, whether it could be simplified, or particularly whether they've got some more sort of radical ideas about how legal aid and assistance to people in legal issues could be provided in the future. For example, a lot of legal aid is delivered through court, and we'd have a preference, I think, for heading court cases off at the pass, as it were, so that things can be resolved outside court through alternative dispute resolution methods such as mediation. We'd also be interested in seeing whether we can provide more legal advice upstream in a preventative way. So we are, for example, encouraging the Citizens Advice Service to respond to us to see if they'd have a role to play in delivering low-level, early legal advice which would avoid complications and therefore costs later for citizens of the Isle of Man.
I wish you well, and it is important that people do make their voices being heard, because once it's changed, that's it.
That's right, yes, it's speak now or forever hold your peace, really. We're giving the opportunity for everybody to make their views known. We want them to do so, but we won't necessarily be doing this again for a while. It hasn't been done for 14 years, a sort of overall review of legal aid, so it is a bit of a once in a decade or more opportunity, so we'd like people to participate.